Alrighty, Dale, I got 7:30.
I have 7:30 also. Can you, let's start the meeting. You want to do a roll call, please?
Mr. Livingston,
Here.
Mr. Nath,
Here.
Mr. Lennon. He emailed me saying that he'll be late. Ms. Cimaroli,
Here.
Mr. Tolmer,
Here.
and I'm Joe Cower.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate all your hard work with getting the agenda and everything put together for tonight's meeting. First on the agenda is reorganization of the Planning Commission. Before we get too far into this, I just want to say up front that I'm not willing to sit in the chair for the upcoming year. It's open and available. Maybe some point in time in the future, next year, the year after, I'd certainly consider coming back, but I've got too many personal issues going on right now that make it a challenge for me. So I'll open it up to nominations for chair.
I would nominate Justine Cimaroli if I could.
And I would nominate Tim Neff.
I appreciate that. From my perspective, I shared this when we did first round of nominations. Between 55 and 60-hour work weeks and the 4 kids, I would love to do it. I'm just not in a position to give the time and attention that it requires.
But
And that's just shooting honestly.
it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I mean, Joe Cower does a lot of the work. It's just a matter of, being able to visit with Joe at some point in time. And we've done it via email, is just looking at the agenda and just running the meeting and being able to delegate. So.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the context, Dale. Without getting too much into it, there's a lot of different things that I'm involved with, and I'm at the margin's edge. So
I understand. Okay, so we've got 2 nominations.
Justine, is that a hard no? Because I would welcome to.
My concern is that, do I really know enough to be able to chair this committee? All right. I've only been here for 2 years. Do I have the time? Certainly I have the time. It's just that, does Bridgeville deserve somebody that is more familiar with everything that goes on in this committee?
Well, again, I'll say that, you've got Joe Cower as a resource, you've got the other members as a resource, and it's just not you making all the decisions. It's quite clearly, just the process of running the meeting and keeping an orderly fashion and, keeping things online.
And if I could say, Justine, the reason why I nominated you is because, the way you do carry yourself in these meetings, you're always prepared. You always do the research on whenever we have an issue, you have background on it. And I think you'd be a very good president, in my own personal opinion. So I'm not trying to sit there and say, oh, I know Dale came to us, the last month and said, that he wasn't, that he didn't have the time to do it. And, all month I was trying to think who would be a good person to step in his place. And you were the first one that came to my mind.
And how about Larry? Did anybody talk with Larry?
Well, he's not here, so we could nominate him real quick before he gets here.
Can we vote on it?
I won't speak for Larry. I think from conversations we had just to get him to agree to come back to the commission after being involved a number of years ago, that I think he's happy to participate. He brings a ton of expertise. I suspect he'd be reticent to take on the chair role. We can certainly ask, but I feel a certain amount of confidence in expressing that.
Well, All right. If, only if I get everybody's full support when I need help.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, Justine.
That goes without saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, this is a team effort, this whole, and that's the way
Right.
it's been since I've been on the commission, is, you know, it isn't one person making a decision. It's a bunch of people, you know, looking at the facts, doing the research, and you know, having that discussion to make decisions.
All right. I'll accept.
Okay, so we've got a nomination for, we've actually got two nominations on the floor right now. Tim has declined. So nomination for Justine to sit in the chair position. I guess, Joe, help me out here with protocol.
I think it'd just be a voice vote.
Okay. All in favor of Justine sitting in the chair position, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. With my full
Aye.
support, Justine.
Okay.
Justine, you got to vote here.
Oh, I have to vote? Oh, yay. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Justine. And again, I'll help you as much as I can.
Okay.
I'm not walking away from the whole
All right.
process. It's just. Okay, so nominations for vice chair.
Tim.
Yeah, I'm happy to retain that. I no problem. Provided the vote goes through, I should say. I won't get too far in front of us.
Okay. All in favor of nominating Tim for the vice chair position, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Nomination for election of secretary. Secretary basically, is my understanding is, you know, the third in line for carrying on a meeting should the chair and vice chair not be present for a meeting. You know, Joe, help me out here. They're supposed to be able to take some notes, but I mean, that's what the borough pretty much does with this.
Yeah, that wouldn't be expected. I handle your minutes. That's a staff person. The secretary, though, like you said, was the president pro tem of the commission, the third in line. And it also does the attesting of the commission on plans. There are plenty of times when you see a lot consolidation where these plans come up that the chairman and the secretary sign. So you would just be attesting to the actions.
Okay. I nominate Mike Tallmer.
That's, I
Not too
agree.
many left at this point.
I kind of figured. Sure.
All right, Mike. I nominate Mike too.
Okay. Mike, you okay with this?
Absolutely.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, Mike Tallmer is elected to the secretary position. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate this.
And thank you, Dale.
Yes, thank you, Dale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adoption of minutes from January 7th, 2020. I'll take a motion to adopt.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Okay, Tim made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Justine, yeah.
Justine seconds. Okay, any discussion?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, all in favor of adopting the minutes from the December 7th meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. You know, actually, Justine, you should be taking over this meeting since you're
That's
chair. I will run it if you would like.
Yes, please.
And starting next month, well,
Yes.
you make the motion to adjourn at the end and, we'll go
Okay.
from there. How's that?
Fine. That's good.
Okay, new business. There's a subdivision application for commercial street plan of lots submitted by IES at 368 Commercial Street, proposing the subdivision of parcel 255-G-255 into 2 lots. Property is located in the industrial zoning district. The plan and application have been reviewed by the borough engineer, and a comment letter that was submitted notes the plan conform to the Bridgeville zoning ordinance, chapter 27, and subdivision of land development ordinance, chapter 22, pending the completion of approval by the DEP of a sewage planning module. Joe, what do we need to know here?
You ran down the list. This is the last lot at the end of Commercial Street. It's right next to Shannon Safety. It's that same parcel. You can see the tax parcel was included in your packet.
Mhm.
They're proposing just making it 2 lots.
Okay.
The plans, it's been reviewed by the borough engineer as the agenda states. It conforms to the subdivision zoning ordinance. The only requirement is they have to complete a sewer planning module that basically is an engineering exercise to state that our sewers have the capacity to take on the additional flow. And their
Okay.
surveyor is currently in the processes of doing that.
Okay, comments from the planning commission? Questions?
I was just looking at it, Joe. So there were some issues, but they're all addressed.
Correct. You'll see in your packet was the
Yeah.
2 planning review letters. One was by the engineer saying it was probably a whole laundry list, but all
Yeah.
of them have been addressed. And
That's
the
what I
plan as submitted is revised, satisfies all the requirements of the engineer. So we're ready for you guys to review.
Good. Okay.
And the DEP sewage planning module, that's a formality that's going on or gonna happen?
That is going on as we speak.
Okay. So I take a motion to approve the subdivision pending the completion and approval by DEP of the sewage planning module.
I'll make a
Sure, I'll
motion.
make the motion.
Okay,
I'll
Tim,
second
get
it.
the motion? Second?
Yep, I second it.
Mike seconds. Any additional comments, questions?
No.
Not a question, Joe, but so they want to subdivide it. Do they have an idea what they want to put in there? Did they mention or? they just
No,
wanna-
I haven't been told yet.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, do we need to have any further discussion or comment from, is there anybody representing the subdivision on,
The surveyor emailed me saying he wasn't able to attend, but the property owner was going to attend tonight. But I don't see him on the list of participants.
okay, do we need to have any comments from anybody else at this point in time?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries to further pass this along to the council. Okay, item number 2 on the new, under new business, conditional use application for 621 McLaughlin Run Road, submitted by Antonio Carcellella. I'm sorry.
Carousel.
Carousel, thank you, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Of Fully Cocked Ammo LLC for the property located at 621 McLaughlin Run Road within the multi-use zoning district. Operation operating under the permitted conditional use as Pittsburgh Power Coating. The applicant proposes a second business operation at this location, operating a light manufacturing operation within the same building, which is also a conditional use subject to section 903.23 of the zoning ordinance. Light manufacturing operational proposed includes the reloading and retail sales of ammunition. The application and plan have been reviewed by the borough engineer. A comment letter has been received from him noting that all the requirements in section 903.23 have been addressed by the applicant. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I see the solicitor on here. Is it as simple as I just suspected that ammunition loading and sales would be more than just light manufacturing. Are there things that we need to worry about there with respect to how much explosives are on site? And
Yes. And that's actually kind of the question. So just kind of to walk into it, potentially, we have a mixed use district. It does allow, even under its definition, for some industrial uses, typically light industrial uses. So then when you go to the light industrial definition, and by the way, let me just say this is a light manufacturing is a conditional use, not just a permitted use in the mixed use district. Why? Because there may be some ammunition factories and then there are others. One may meet the kind of criteria and another may not. And things that have an impact potentially on surrounding properties, kind of good to have a conditional use. And actually the reason why with a conditional use you have a public hearing is that gives Mr. Caroselli an opportunity to show that not just as a general or hypothetical proposition, but with regard to how he's doing his particular operation, that he can meet those criteria. So he does have it's not a slam dunk and it's not a deal breaker. He has an opportunity to show through this process that he meets all these criteria. Just having said that, when you look at, and I've kind of studied, and Joe and I, Mr. Cower, have had an opportunity, and as you know, he has a pretty good background in zoning, et cetera. So we've had a chance to kind of brainstorm back and forth on this and even took around and look around the country, other places, et cetera. When you look at the definition of light manufacturing, basically criteria C, or actually just starting off on the definitions, it can be light manufacturing so long as, among other things, it involves no process that will produce a fire hazard, but there's not a period there, you have to complete it. No process involved that will produce a fire hazard which will endanger neighboring properties. If I had a major ammunition manufacturing facility, I may not be able to pass that test. In the context of safeguards, the volume, the nature of the ammunition that you're producing and or quantity, et cetera, you may be able to show and demonstrate that in your particular context, you meet that bill, that your process does not produce a fire hazard which will or can endanger the neighboring properties, et cetera. So, and Mr. Caroselli may want to kind of speak to the board a little bit about how his operation kind of falls into that. You certainly will have an opportunity again at the public hearing, and you'll want to do that. And then what we can do, and not to speak on, I'll just wrap it up and let the gentleman describe what he's doing. Then what you can do, if they put on that sort of evidence explaining what they're doing, how they're doing it, the volume, quantity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it's for that reason that they meet this definition, we can turn that around and in the decision include those as conditions of approval, that you shall only have X, you shall only do Y, you shall only store Z, et cetera. And that's kind of why this is done in this sort of process. So having said that, if anybody has any questions, that's why this is kind of eligible for consideration of approval in this context. And you are permitted to approve something where with conditions where those conditions are necessary to do that. And by the same token, I've often said, and you've heard, a conditional use is kind of like a permitted use with an asterisk. So long as somebody can meet that criteria, if you could approve something with conditions, you're not really supposed to deny it if it can be appropriately approved and meets the criteria with those conditions added. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you folks.
Yeah, Tom, I guess my question, to follow up with Tim is, we have a gun manufacturer here in town who does sell ammunition. I guess, what is it, he's, and this probably Mr. Carosella can answer, would answer this. Obviously, you're gonna be selling ammunition, but are you making your own brand of ammunition?
No, most of the ammunition, it's brand new, or it's once fired ant brass that's been prepped and cleaned and polished and everything. By all means, it's going to be a pretty small operation. It's just me. I have a single reloader, on a desk. So it's just me. So I can only do so much.
Oh, so this is like you want to press a shell at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have several of those operations already.
Yeah. The biggest issue is I'm applying for my FFL so that I have the license to be able to sell the ammunition and manufacture it, as well as selling firearms, but I'm probably not going to be doing much of that, but I wanted the license for it anyways. But yeah, it's just a single press thing. All of the ammunition, as well as like the gunpowder, that's all stored in a really big safe that I have. It's fireproof for 60 minutes, I think it is, 1200 degrees. And, the quantities of powder and everything I have, it's going to be minimal. I'm not keeping, big 55-gallon drums of it or anything like that stored on site. It's just going to be, 8-pound containers, little gallon jugs of it. And even at that, there's only a couple of those.
Do you need that FFL license to retail this?
Yes.
Okay.
Humor me for educational purpose. FFL.
Federal firearms license.
Okay. So what are your total quantities of gunpowder?
Right now, I probably only have 10 pounds of it sitting there.
And how much?
If you're up and running, is that what you expect to?
I don't expect me to keep any more than 20, 30 pounds on site at a time. It takes a good while to go through, a jug of that powder. You figure on, individual bullets, they have very small amounts. So you can do several thousand rounds, with a pound of powder. So it's not something I need to keep on site. I know other places locally that have it. So as I need it, I can just go and grab it. I don't want to keep something like that, in stock real big anyways.
Go ahead, Justine.
So I have a question about, so if you say right now you have 10 pounds of powder and you're continuously reloading bullets, is that correct? So between the reloaded bullets and the amount of powder, could you guesstimate what you think would be your total weight or total consumption?
I'm not quite sure, because right now with the ammunition shortage, I'm sure as soon as I'm making it, I'd be selling it. So I won't be keeping a whole lot in stock just because of that. But as far as how much I'd actually have, I can't see it being more than 20, 30 pounds.
Okay.
Like I said, it'll take me a couple weeks for sure to go through that amount of powder. And then whenever I'm out, I can easily, run down to where I need to and just grab another small jug of it to get me through.
Right. And then let me ask you about the storage. Because everything that I've been reading, and in fact, I was just out before, I couldn't get onto the ATF website. But one of the things that I came up with was that the storage is not supposed to be in like a solid, in a gun safe.
Okay, I'd have to ask.
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I'd have to ask the ATF rep about that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm waiting to meet with him after this. He won't meet until I get the zoning approval.
Okay.
And then once I meet with him, I go over all the regulations for, paperwork, all what I can and can't do, legal stuff.
Okay,
So
all
if
right.
he says that, then, okay, then I can keep it off site if need be, or put it in a separate area, you know.
It's where I got my first information was a group called Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers.
Okay,
All right, and so that's my other concern is, because I guess ammunition or powder needs to breathe or it puts off gases. And if it allows to build, then it can explode. So I don't know.
okay, yeah, I know I'm not sure about that, because they're always in sealed containers. So like there's different types of powder, you know, different weights and all that
Okay,
stuff.
all right,
They're all in individual powders, and even whenever you get them, they're brand new and they have a seal on the cap, plus it's twisted on, so I'm not
Okay.
quite sure how that would apply to that, but
but so that would be something that or your license will provide information to you on how to store it.
exactly, yeah,
And you have to comply to that in order to
Oh.
get your license.
yeah, 100%.
Okay, all right.
How many different types of powder do you anticipate having? It's like-
Probably only 2 or 3 different kinds.
I think I'm wading into stuff I'm not an expert on, Antonio, but you could like I think black powder, unless it's under pressure, it's not an explosive like you see in the movies, right?
Exactly, yeah,
It kind
Yeah,
of
or
smolders and yeah.
yeah, unless it's, you know, ignited intentionally, obviously, but yeah, just sitting there, it's not going to do anything.
And thank you for mentioning that. If I might chime in, and sir, you may want to kind of include this in your presentation at the public hearing. For example, they talk about hazardous materials, and it sounds like Justine, everybody's been kind of doing a little research. Has materials, that's a term of art. And I noticed in some of the literature that gunpowder, for example, and I'm not a hunter, so I don't have the background, it may or may not be an explosive in a particular form of substance, et cetera, and how you're doing it. So you're going to want to kind of do 2 things. One, present that, because that basically you're not allowed to store hazardous materials on site. It may not constitute a hazardous material, or if it is, you'll have to come up with a means of off-site storage. It certainly does contemplate some on-site storage of explosives, because Rule F basically says you have to inventory explosives. So I think it assumes that you may have materials that may be kind of by their nature explosive theoretically, but they may not technically be a hazardous material.
Yeah.
So I think you want to present that, why, an example, even, you know, say the number is maximum 50 pounds, why that is not a danger under that definition to the neighbors, et cetera, why it's not explosive, how you would handle it. You don't want to cut yourself short. So, for example, if you can put on evidence that shows or supports that 50 pounds or less at a time, properly segregated, et cetera, therefore meets those definitions, you would want to do that so that the board can take that into consideration. And
Okay.
then they can impose conditions accordingly. Compliance with all the federal laws, compliance with everything that you tell us that you're doing that makes you, one of these.
Can you, Mr. Casella, can you kind of walk us through your process? Once you get up and running, I presume that you're probably doing this sort of thing at home someplace or doing it someplace else.
Yeah.
Kind of walk us through, the process and safeguards and that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple process. There's not much to it. I mean, there is a lot to it, but the machine itself, it automatically feeds your shell down. If it's reloaded ammunition, like once fired brass, the whole press itself does everything. It presses the old primer out, pushes a new one in, fills up the exact amount of powder. There's actually a tube, and it's set. So as you load it up, it puts the exact amount of weight of powder in it. Then it goes to the next step, puts the bullet in, presses it in, crimps it, and spits it out. And it's just a continuous rotation of the bullets. And everything is all separated. All the primers are separated. All the shells are separated. All the brass, the powder, everything's stored separately. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's complicated, but it's simple once you have everything measured out. And I have different scales and micrometers and everything to measure overall lengths of the bullets to make sure that they're within the guidelines, the scales to measure the right amount of powder that's being put in there.
Primers, the primers stored with the powder?
No, they're separate.
In this facility, does that need to be stored in the safe also?
It shouldn't need to be, no, it's not really, they're all just in individual packets. They come in usually boxes of like 1,000 of them, but then each packet, there's 100 of them. So you got 10 different packets within them. They're very tiny. And the only way that they would actually pose any kind of fire or anything like that is if they're actually struck with an ignition pin, basically, or
Okay.
firing pin from an ammo. So it has to be a very precise punch right in the middle of it.
Okay.
The retail side of it, is it just word of mouth, folks who know that you do this? Are you planning on advertising somehow, some way?
I'm gonna put a website up, but I'm not gonna be putting any big signage or anything like that up front, up front. It's mainly gonna be word of mouth and, whatever I can sell online.
Yeah, okay. And I can't find it right now. I've been looking for the last couple of minutes. Maybe Tom, you can help me out here. I thought there was a condition in here somewhere that said, if you're storing these kinds of things within a business, it's just subject, the inventory is subject to the borough inspection. Am I making that up? Or if we're able to do that, Joe, is that something that we ever just take a note of and say, hey, like an ER shop and watch the bike, we ever just take a pass through and say, let me get comfortable with what you're doing here?
I've
Yeah,
never been
that-
made aware of that.
Inventory, that's under F, under the light manufacturing. It's one of the general conditions of, and in fact, it goes without saying whether you paste it into your decision or not. It's just one of the definitions of conditional use, that the inventory, you have to keep an inventory of toxic, corrosive, flammable, carcinogenic, explosive materials, etc.
It's
Shall
under
be
F, yeah.
available upon request.
Yeah.
And that may be something, say, that our fire marshal may be the vehicle through which such things are overseen,
Mm.
so to speak.
So in regards to that, say for instance, we would require an inventory and he provides that, or anybody provides that list of inventory to the borough. Would we take that on good faith then? Would we accept that in good faith, that inventory?
We would normally, yes, I think at that level, unless you have some cause to believe somebody is kind of certifying when they do that. I do believe that under his regulations, this is going to be redundant to his reporting and inventory
Okay.
requirements. Sir, is that the case?
Yeah.
It's highly regulated. I understand.
Okay. Right. All right.
But on our level, there would always be, and frankly, even administrative through the fire marshal, through our fire oversight, that seems to me might be the appropriate mechanism through which to even do customary inspections, periodic inspections, paperwork, et cetera, of that nature.
Tom, is there a process already in place for doing some of these things? I mean, we have another firearms facility in town. Is this something that's already being done elsewhere?
I do believe, and I think, Joe, can you help me out? I think what's he producing up the street?
Rifle barrels.
Yeah, that's kind of a machine shop
All right,
Mm.
all right.
level thing. I think he may retail sell firearms. I'm not sure on that
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
So
he
he's
has
kind of a
shop in
slash,
front.
he's a slash retail slash kind of, it's barrel manufacturing.
Okay.
Mm.
So
Well,
he
he-
actually
he-
would,
Hey,
Go
Tom,
ahead.
he doesn't make just barrels. He makes, Shaw rifles are a complete rifle.
But he's not
Okay.
manufacturing bullets
Ammunition.
and fire, ammunition.
He's not manufacturing, he's selling the ammunition.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sells the ammunition in his store, but doesn't manufacture it.
I think there's a business is a business, right? Antonio seems like an upstanding guy. I
Sure.
have no problem with the business. It just feels like good practice to let fire service and police service know we got a bullet manufacturer potentially going in, because you just, the odd exception, right? Where
Right.
somebody targets the building. I'd want my law enforcement to know that. So
And frankly, you guys have that's an ordinance requirement. You can also, through your conditions of approval, kind of put a reporting back and forth procedure in place between him, and you can affirmatively put that in approval that, pursuant to F, you shall, and, fill in the blank, annually, quarterly, monthly, provide, or whatever, to the fire department. You shall consensually allowed at reasonable times, without warning, fire marshal to enter upon the premises during operation hours, etc. You can do those kind of things. And then, in fact, that's the reason why you have a conditional use that allows you the opportunity to kind of do that.
Yeah.
You can hold them to if they claim they only meet the criteria because of X, then you put X in as your conditions. And if you have other things that even in that criteria make it safe and make you comfortable that it is there safely, etc., those are all what you have the luxury and ability to do in the context of an application like this.
Okay. Further discussion, questions?
I have more questions.
Bring it on, Justine.
Are there any security, are you doing any type of security? Like
Yes.
doors? Okay,
Well, yeah, I mean, all the doors are obviously locked. The main door where the safe is has a big, I don't know what you want to call it, almost like a big deadbolt lock that locks the whole door. But the safe where all the ammunition will be stored in the safe, and that's bolted to the floor, so nobody can get in there. I have security cameras inside and outside of the building, and I will be putting cameras directly over top of the safe to, obviously see if anybody's trying to get in there.
okay. And how many doors are there? There's one going into the safe room. There's another one up at the top of the steps, right?
Yeah.
And then there's one in the back. What types of doors are they? Are they,
They're just
Yeah.
regular doors.
so,
Yeah, those
Wood
ones
doors,
all up.
metal doors.
The downstairs ones are metal doors.
Okay.
Well, where the safe would be, they're metal doors. All the ones upstairs are just regular wooden doors.
and is there only access to the second floor from McLaughlin Road? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Is the building fire sprinkled?
No, we do have fire extinguishers all over, but there's no fire sprinkler system.
Anything else that we haven't asked that you think we ought to know about?
No, I'm fine.
Mr. Casella, is there anything else that you think we should know about that we haven't asked? Or, I mean, this is an educational process for us just as much as,
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's something a little different. Not that I can know. I mean, we pretty much covered all the main basics of it. Like I said, it's mainly just me. My wife would be there doing paperwork and stuff for, all the sales and everything, but, it's not going to be a huge operation. It's going to be pretty minor, actually.
do you anticipate growth?
Probably, yeah. But I don't know when, obviously I'm still operating the powder coating side of everything. So that takes up a majority of my day right there.
And the powder coating business is downstairs, is that correct? On the first floor?
Yes.
The gun loading is on the second floor. And so you don't have to worry about any type of explosions or anything like that in your powder coating?
No.
Okay. All right.
Static's not an issue with the powder coating?
What's that?
Static?
Well, that's why we have ground rods that go down through. So there's no, charge essentially.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this, sir. Is there any, the operations don't occur at the same time, and is it prudent, say, and I guess with you being both of them, maybe you
Mhm.
can't, but is there some prudence in having a condition under which you agree that you will not perform both operations at a time? And is that a reasonable thing to consider in the context of the danger and balancing with your attempt and ability to do your business?
I don't think it would be a danger to do both of them at the same time. You know, I do have employees who are doing the powder coating side of things. I'm not opposed to, you know, whatever requirements I need to make, obviously. But like, they're in separate areas, so I can't see any being an issue, you know, with doing
Okay.
them at once.
Then you may, and again, I only ask out of ignorance and teeing off of the prior
Yeah, that's fine.
question. You may want to just cover that as to why that's not an issue when you discuss it in the hearing.
Okay.
Hey, under the category, maybe a picture says 1,000 words, because I think folks, I don't know if we can get on YouTube and see somebody doing what you're doing. Would it be possible, and it's no compulsion, and we're all
Yeah.
Zooming here, might you be able to make maybe a 2-minute little kind of video that would show how you do your thing at your bench, and maybe show this, that, and we could kind of even post it up for the hearing?
Yeah, I mean,
That's at your option,
Yeah.
certainly. Okay,
yeah,
I
I'm
think a
not
lot-
opposed to it.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Purcell, I think a lot of people assume that this is this this massive operation, and when you think of it,
It's not. It's me sitting there on a bench and just, you know,
Yeah.
pulling a lever and that's all
I
it
remember
is.
watching my grandfather load shells all the time. and I
Yeah.
helped when I was a kid, I'm measuring this stuff, so it's not something.
No,
new.
it's the only thing that makes it go faster is it's got a automatic wheels that, feed the shells and feed the bullets down and automatically dumps the powder into, precise measurement. So it goes quicker, but it's no different than, individually loading each one up. So.
I'm good. The only thing I would request, and maybe, Tom, you can tell me if it's covered under F here, that all
Sure.
materials will be stored in a safe, and we call out that access to that is easily provided upon request. I would just, if we need to go further and add a condition to say, again, based on normal working hours and nothing obstructive, that you, Antonio, are willing to give a quick pass through to a fire marshal, to a, police officer, and then as a business owner, I think that's probably advantageous to you more than anything. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I have no
don't
problem
want to
with
be
that.
obstructionist and cause more problems than needed,
Right.
but I think
No.
it's in.
No,
And
that's perfectly
frankly,
fair.
and frankly, and kind of just to chime in procedurally, because this is just coming in and you're getting educated about it, there is time. We do have to go through the procedure where Joe has to kind of do a 2-week in a row advertisement and do all his legalities for the public hearing. So I would expect that hearing is going to happen at the March council meeting, not the February. Having said that, the PC's options tonight are either to make a recommendation favorable or against at this time, or simply to table it, and you may choose to make your recommendation after you have a further chance to look at it and make a recommendation, next month that could be submitted in advance. And in that regard, you could kind of formulate, Tim and others, you've kind of coalesced on some of the punch list that you might include and come up with a recommended. And just for example, if there was a recommendation that would recommend approval, provided that condition A, B, C, D, E, and you could, if you tabled it tonight, you'd be in a position maybe to consider and fashion such a recommendation at your option at next month's meeting.
So we're not, to that point, we're not critical path here where we're going to hold things up if we.
Exactly. That's my point. And Joe, am I correct that this would kind of hit the council public hearing in March?
I was thinking it would be February. I didn't think we were going to go to March, but
What?
if the
I
planning
didn't look at,
is comfortable with this tonight, that's the only course we have to take.
okay. And again, I was just looking at the calendar with it being the 25th. You'd have to be able to get 2 weeks in a row, leaving a week, 7 days or more before their next meeting to kind of hit all your buttons on the advertisements. And I know it's more expensive to do that if we don't use, not to get into the weeds, your extra section, et cetera.
Would it be possible, Joe, to get the application for the FFL to see what it does cover?
I don't have that. If Antonio would like to share that with us.
Well, I
Um,
mean, even if we just get a blank one, where would you apply for that? If I say, for instance, I wanted to get one, where would I go to find
Um,
that information?
The ATF website has all the information on there.
Okay,
It's an application you got to fill out. I had to go to the state police station, get fingerprinted. I forget all the information I had to send in. I had to send in a lot of different information. And then you send it in and wait for them to call you, basically.
okay, right. Because you need you need the borough's approval before you get your license. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I don't have anything yet. That's
Okay.
the only thing that I'm waiting on.
Oh, okay.
No pressure, no pressure.
I mean, my concerns are not such that I want to back you up another month. Antonio, you're a local business owner. My goodness, I think that the language here that says access is easily provided upon request is where we want to be. So provided we think that's got some teeth, and if the borough has officials that would just like to take a peek and get comfortable with it, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking at the calendar, Joe and folks, and in light of the other requirements that we've learned about regarding posting, et cetera, whatnot, I don't believe we're actually exactly 2 weeks out from the council meeting. It's actually not possible for us to lawfully hold a duly noticed meeting at our February meeting. So we would have to go to the March meeting, and it's everybody's interest, including the applicant, that because of the federal, they're the ones that are requiring you to kind of get your ticket punched, so to speak, properly on the local level to do it that way. And again, that I do, you can make a recommendation tonight if you wish. You can also, again, I'm just to let you know, table it and put yourself in a position to make kind of a more full recommendation if that's where you're going with the conditions you wish to recommend, at that time. Just giving you your options, legal advertising wise, it's not possible to have the hearing in February, or at least at the regularly scheduled meeting. Council can specially advertise a meeting that we can hold anytime we wish through particularly the Zoom.
With proper notification.
Yes, but we have more luxury. We don't have to try to hit our monthly schedule. If you folks wish to kind of schedule it so there was, we got it advertised, properly posted with the timeframes, et cetera, you don't need to wait until the March meeting for council.
Well, and at this point in time, it's just a matter of trying to think about conditions.
Right. My point is that if you take the luxury of time to do that, you could actually be in a position where the planning commission could make those recommendations and then hand them to the council so that they would have them at their disposal when council actually holds the public hearing.
Yeah.
And frankly, that might put council in a better position to fashion a decision, because although they don't have to render a decision until 45 days after they hold that public hearing, the more you put the council in a position to do so, they may, again, at their option, and if they're comfortable, they can lawfully issue a decision at the close of the hearing following the hearing, if they place themselves in a position to do that. And we help them.
Planning Commission, where are you at with the thought process here? Are there conditions we want to add to this? I understand ATF is pretty thorough in what they look at, how they do things. I not having seen the conditions and requirements of ATF, I don't want to do anything. I'd rather not do anything that duplicates what's already being done.
I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue of voting on it tonight, if that's what you're asking. If it helps Mr. Casella, and then as far as reviewing it, I'm sure we're going to be able to do that. But that's up to you guys.
Well, and I mean, we can just pass this along to approve it without conditions, or we can put conditions on it and approve it. And that's where I'm at. Are there conditions we want to add to this? Tom,
Yes, yeah, I've heard a variety of them that you've raised topic wise, and you can, and again, if you wish to act tonight and you don't think you have everything pinned down in terms of conditions, you can state them conceptually. For example, you could make a motion that might say, I recommend that it be, the application be approved, providing that at the hearing, the applicant demonstrate they meet all the criteria of the ordinance, specific criteria, that they store less than 50, and I'm making these numbers up, that they store less than X amount, that they store things in a manner Y, that they do things, as we've discussed in these different manners, and that they meet all federal, state, and other regulatory requirements with regard to that operation. And such other conditions as council may believe necessary as a result of the evidence submitted at the hearing. You could actually make such a recommendation in that regard.
Well, personally, I feel as if I would like to more thoroughly get my notes together and my thoughts together and figure out what it is that the ATF recommends and how we coordinate with what they recommend or what's needed and what we want. So I'm for tabling it for the time being, for tonight.
okay. You want to make that a motion?
Yeah, make the motion, Justine, if that's what we want to do.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. I make a motion to table it. until next-
Okay, we got a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I'll second it only because, and I want to be clear to Antonio, a local business owner, it doesn't sound like we're going to set you back, right? We've got the 2-week stipulation. We can't get you into the February timeframe. We're going to meet again before the March council. So I just want to be sensitive to not causing you a month's worth of loss. I don't think we're doing that. We're beholden to the 2-week. That's a very long way of saying I second. We'll take advantage of the time that we have. Either way we slice it as I read it.
Fair enough.
Is that, okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mike?
Yeah, I'll vote, I'll vote for to table it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay.
And
So-
Mr. Chairman, if I might recommend and just indicate, the manager, I'll get with the manager and we'll recommend that on council's agenda in the coming week, that we obtain authorization to advertise the public hearing and to be held on March 8th, which by the way, puts us right in the timeline. Again, you will get to the finish line, picking up on Mr. Nash's point at the same time you otherwise would. And then you guys can meet at the end. We can advertise it, get it all set up for a hearing on the 8th, and even be in a position at council's preference to issue a decision that night if they wish to do so, based on your recommendations in the hearing that they hold that
Yeah.
night.
I think that's the route that we want to go. Does the council, does the commission concur?
Kerr.
Yes,
Antonio, thanks for being here and for answering a bunch of questions, some of which probably are beyond the bounds of what we really should be interested in.
No, you're
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Not a problem.
No, it's all about trying to keep a small business, get a new small business in town. I mean, that's how the economy grows. It's not going to be bringing in massive industry. It's going to be bringing in small business.
Absolutely.
It's a matter of just trying to make sure that we totally understand what's going on, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel as far as what ATF is already doing and some of
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah, they're pretty thorough.
yeah.
You're not making cupcakes.
No. No. Maybe I should, it'd be easier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business. 2005 comprehensive plan review, table discussions from back in October. Some of the issues that, you know, I mean, we've moved forward with the comprehensive plan recommendation. Manager, the council are already moving on that. Some of the pedestrian items we're moving forward with. I didn't know if we want to look at, and Justine's gonna, you know, lead some of the discussion, but I mean, it's gonna take all of us to, you know, add our objectives and point of views to this, where we want to go with some of these other issues that were kind of low hanging fruit, well, higher hanging fruit than the low hanging fruit that we already have taken on. You know, trails, you know, obviously we're working on the flood and the Baldwin Street issue, parking issues, small town enhancement, borough cleanup. Some of that stuff will be wrapped up with a comprehensive plan, but I mean, there's other things, the trail issues, Mike. Some of this stuff that maybe we look at and start laying foundation for doing some of this stuff this coming year.
I don't have anything, Dale. Nothing major. I mean, we can start looking at pick off some of the, like you said, the low hanging fruit. You know, I haven't looked at it this past month though.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I'm just trying to lay the foundation to help Justine for the coming year, with some sort of plan to look at to keep things moving. Tim?
No, for the plan that we're about to kick off, Joe, help me out with the timeline here. I think we were expecting RFP responses in the February timeframe, right? Will that consume at least some portion of agendas moving forward, from review of those responses to follow-up questions to hopefully having a, you know, sit down with one or two of them to actually getting underway? Am I overplaying that, or I think that's going to show up kind of recurring month on month here for the next foreseeable future? Is that fair?
You're spot on. RFP deadline is the first week of February. We had a pre-proposal meeting with interested firms back on the 13th. It was a great turnout, actually. There was probably a dozen firms that attended virtually and had a good bit of questions. The game plan is, like you said, is that we'll get everyone the proposal so that we can start reviewing them. While that's going on, I'll basically take the highest dollar plan and apply for a grant using that as our scope and budget, and then we'll go from there. So everything's moving as we hoped.
Okay.
And it was nice that there was a good bit of interest from the planning consultants. I was nervous because I wasn't hearing anything when I sent out the RFP, but for pre-proposal meeting, it was very well attended.
That's awesome to hear. So Dale, that doesn't mean we got to take everything else off the table. It's just, I think come next month, we're going to start picking up actual to-dos out of, you know, making sure this gets started in a healthy way. So that's, I guess, where my mind was at least for the first half of the year.
Yeah, well, and you know, when we laid this out last year, we were looking at, you know, trying to keep things going.
Right.
And you know, just look at some of this table, some of the discussion for some of the things that we didn't pass on to the council for budget issues or action. You know, we want to try and keep things moving, you know, from a planning perspective into the future.
Yep.
And it's all about, you know, juggling all the balls and keeping them in the air and moving forward. And I don't know if we want to take and spend some time looking at parking issues and maybe looking at the parking ordinance and inviting somebody from the parking commission to come in and visit with us. Anyway, that's,
I do have a question, Joe. Is there somewhere, and I understand that you do a wonderful job at getting grant money and applying for grants and being very successful with it. Is there an opportunity, is there one place or one group that one place that has a list of all environmental grant monies available from either the feds or the states or even Allegheny County?
I'm not familiar with this one-stop shop, Justine.
Okay, all right. Because our representative was supposed to put something like that together. Not Pam, the other one.
The state rep usually puts a state grant guide together. It's a
Okay,
book,
all
but
right.
it's usually just state programs.
Okay, all right. All right, thanks.
okay, well, I just wanted to toss that out and have that discussion a little bit and keep some of that discussion from last year in the forefront so we can kind of keep moving forward with planning stuff.
Dale,
Yes, Joe.
if I could just give a quick update, we touched on the comp plan, so everyone knows where that is. So next month, that's going to be an agenda item just to bring you guys up to speed.
Okay.
A couple months back, we applied for an active transportation plan through Active Allegheny. I checked with them this week. They still haven't made grant awards, but they're saying that we should know if our project's funded by the end of February.
Okay.
And that was a lot of our pedestrian issues we were trying to seek a professional eye on. So that grant's still being in consideration. PennDOT, we had the conversation with them to do what they would consider their safety review for Washington Avenue. We're waiting for their response on that, but that's in motion. Trails, a couple meetings ago, the commission asked that I reach out to Upper St. Clair and South Fayette to see if there'd be interest. Before I reached out to them, I went to the county GIS and I showed the quick map of how Chartiers Park connects very easily through the Nature Center to Upper St. Clair's Rec Center and possibly to Fairview Park. And I sent that to the other town managers. There was interest in possibly us doing something there. I meet with both those guys later this week to just pitch it to them, but they were both interested. So this may be something that's going to take a couple years, but I could see a project put together soon to at least get the planning and engineering or the concept and the cost put together that we can start getting grant money teed up for. So there was a lot of interest in that.
Good job, Joe.
Cool, yeah.
Last summer that came out, one of your slides was gateway improvements and welcome signs and some of those acts to do, improve small town charm. Council, as you know, in the budget, put in money aside for new welcome signs. Council purchased 5 new welcome signs to town. So in the spring, they'll go up and we can do some landscaping around them to start beautifying some of the ancillary gateways into town outside of Washington Avenue. So everything you guys are talking about is working. It's just, it's a slow process for some of them.
Mm-hmm. And I want to make one comment, Joe. Looking back through the manager's reports the last few months, you've been busy doing a lot of compliance and code enforcement things, and that should be applauded. Good job.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. So the welcome signs that you say were purchased, are they like any particular design or are they generic welcome signs?
No. I'll email the group tomorrow.
Okay.
They're an attractive custom Bridgeville sign.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, do we have any visitors or comments? Anybody that?
No one did anything in advance.
Okay. Is there anybody online now that would like to speak? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Hearing nothing. Justine,
Yes.
I'm going to, it's time to adjourn.
Oh, it's time to adjourn. Motion to adjourn?
I got a
I'll make
motion.
that
Wait,
motion.
Second,
Second.
okay, any further discussion? Okay, this is me signifying virtually, I'm handing the gavel to Justine for February's meeting.
Thank you all very much for the honor to serve you and Bridgeville. Thank you.
Justine.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Dale.
See you guys.
Uh,
All right.